What's going on, everybody? John here with MachMotorsport, and today we're going to be doing some cool modifications to my BRZ TS. Now, if you've been following along, you'll know that I've been competing in the Ontario Time Attack season, and the season has come to a close. Our last race was actually a week ago, and I was competing in the GT3 class. Now, in doing so, I fared very well for my novice or rookie year, but I feel like I could have done a little bit better. Now, in light of that season, I've realized after studying some of the results and obviously some of my competitors that if I bump up a class into GT2, I could actually be a little more competitive, as there seems to be fewer people and fewer entrants in that class than there are in my class. My class seems to be pretty saturated at times, and there are some really skilled drivers. Now, you know, skill is important, but I want to win races, so there's nothing wrong with maybe kind of analyzing where you can benefit. And in this particular case, I think all things remaining the same, for next season, if the same competitors are competing, I have a very good chance if I bump up a class to actually do even better than I did this year. So in doing so, we're going to be modifying the BRZ today and adding some performance parts. Now, in my experience, there are kind of the staples when it comes to modifying a car and a naturally aspirated engine, especially. Generally it's exhaust, intake, tune. Those sorts of things are generally going to yield you more power. And in this particular case, in the 8.6 chassis, or the twins rather, it seems that they benefit quite well from adding a header. So we're going to be doing that today. We're going to be adding a header and overpipe to the vehicle to see if we can free up some more power. Now, naturally, this is going to bump me up a class, which I'm comfortable with. And there doesn't appear to be any right or wrong option, in terms of headers. Now, some of you may disagree, but when you're out on the internet, it seems to be a mixed bag. Just when you thought you figured it out and you found the one that's going to give you the most power, there are going to be 10 guys that are telling you that that's a shit header and you shouldn't consider it, and you should consider brand X over brand Y. And you know what? I've seen dyno results of the same header on one guy's car and on another guy's car, and it's amazing the difference in power. And what it's going to boil down to is it's going to boil down to obviously your setup and location, altitude. There's so many variables. So when it came to deciding on what I was going to do, what I basically said was, do I want catless or catted, and do I want equal length or unequal length? Now, I knew I wanted to go catless because I don't see the point of putting in a high flow cat, and to be honest with you, most high flow cats tend to shit the bed kind of early on in their life. I've known a lot of guys that have had high flow cats just completely disintegrate. So I said, you know what, let's go with a catless design, and we're going to get more power out of that. The next was, do I want equal length or unequal length? Now, I know most of you out there love the Subi Rumble, and don't get me wrong, I'm a Subi fanboy, and I've had a lot of them. But in this particular case, especially on a car that never came with an unequal length header, and when we're working with an NA engine, I think equal length is probably your better bet ultimately when you're looking at the big picture. Sure, unequal length is going to give you that, very typical Subaru Rumble, and it's going to give you a little more torque down low, specifically in the torque dip that these vehicles, notoriously suffer from. But I think ultimately when we're looking at, full top end power right across the range, I think the equal length is going to be the better bet. So let's have a look and unbox what I've got. So big shout out to the guys over at Johnston Research and Performance in Mississauga. Ben at JRP was kind enough to help me out on what I was going to ultimately go with here today. And they've always done a really good job at hooking me up at some pretty sweet prices for all this stuff. So if you're looking for parts and you're in the Ontario area, Johnston Research and Performance in Mississauga, JRP online. Alright, so we've got the Tomei equal length header. Of course, this is a catless version. And so right away, right out of the gate, the one thing I like about Tomei products is not only are they really robust and built well, but I mean, it comes complete. We've got hardware, we've got the gasket that connects to the overpipe, and then we've even got new manifold gaskets that go to the head. So that's fantastic. They've also included heat wrap and the bands, and some bands to wrap the header with. So that's a nice little value add as well, nice little bonus there. And of course we get to the header itself, and again, I've had Tomei stuff on my other Subis, and very good quality. They've never really disappointed, but You know, this is the first time I'm taking it out of the bag here, guys, and man, this thing is, the quality is just remarkable. Just this, the welds, this, you know, they just look so good. The other thing I really like about this is that, and some of you kind of fabricator guys out there will know, is this is, you know, we've got these slip joints in here, and the heads tend to, you know, expand and cool, or expand and contract at different rates. And what happens when you have a completely fixed design where it's a solid piece and it's all welded, you have twisting that happens in the manifold, and this just occurs naturally. This is why the OEM has flex pipes built into the different runners leading from one head to the other, because the heads will actually contract and expand at a different rate. And when that happens, you're putting a lot of stress on the welds of a solid unit. So with these slip joints, this eliminates all of that altogether. So you're a lot less likely to get a crack in a weld. And I mean, the flanges look amazing. When we look inside, the collector just looks like, I mean, this is a beautiful, beautiful piece. So, you know, kudos to Tomei. They make again, they make a really nice product. And may I add, it's remarkably lighter than the OE piece. So that's always a bonus. From what I read, we're about 7 pounds lighter, I believe. So cool. Now, unfortunately, they did not have the Tomei OverPipe in stock, but they had the Inividia. Now, I've used Inividia in the past, and you know what? Again, on my Subis, Inividia has always been a really good brand, in my opinion. And when it came to an OverPipe, I didn't think there was going to be a remarkable difference from one brand to another. And as you can see, this looks, in my opinion, very similar to the Tomei. Nice flanges, again, very nice welds. I like the Inividia flanges. These cast flanges are really nice. So, and reasonably light. And of course it comes with a disclaimer, blah, 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 performance use. And of course a set of gaskets. Now, and your hardware. I will add that I don't, you know, these particular perforated gaskets, I don't think they're as good as the OE, but you know what? In a pinch, and when this is all you have, they're going to do just fine. So the Tomei came with the gaskets, enough gaskets, so I'm only going to really use one gasket out of here to connect this to my my mid pipe, or my front pipe, I should say. So, perfect. So that's everything in a nutshell. I'm really hoping that I'm going to have enough wrap to not only do the exhaust manifold, but I'll have enough left over to do the OverPipe as well. All right, so the next step is to get the car up in the... All right, guys, it's already pretty hot and muggy in here, but a couple things you're going to need. You're going to have to remove your splash shield. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail or length as to how to remove the manifold. I mean, there's enough videos on the internet with, you know, 86s and guys doing manifolds on them. So, but just to recap, you're going to want a flathead screwdriver to remove some clips, maybe a clip removal tool, and you're definitely going to want to have a 10 and a 12 mil socket, and to expedite the process, usually one of these bad boys will help. Now, in the interim, I've got the heat wrap soaking in a bucket full of water. This is going to allow the wrap to not only be a little more pliable and be able to wrap the manifold better, but this is also going to allow or minimize the amount of dust that comes off of the wrap. It's, you know, it's a very fine particulate, so you don't want to be breathing that stuff in, and you'll want to wear gloves. So I'm going to get underneath the car, start removing some shields, and go. Hey guys, what's going on? So just a quick update on the install here. So I've gone ahead and I've already removed all the splash shields and removed the stock manifold. You're going to want to make sure that you take out the or disconnect the oxygen sensors from the passenger side front cover. They're held in with little clips, push clips, and then of course they're just kind of clipped into some holders. So anyways, we've gotten that all out of the area, and I've gone ahead and I'm prepping the new manifold for the heat wrap. And it's nice that Tomei includes the heat bandage, they call it. They've actually got a really neat instructional video online that you can go see, and the method that they use. However, I was a bit disappointed because I went based on their method that they recommend and the measurements and all that other good stuff. And not only do they, in my opinion, not include enough bands, locking bands, but this is the finished product, and you know, we're a bit short on this side, you know. So as you can see, it's not full coverage, and so needless to say, I'm a bit disappointed. I knew that it came with the heat wrap. Had I had known that it didn't come with enough, I probably would have bought more in hindsight to finish the job. However, I suppose this is better than going with just the raw finish, and this is gonna have to do for now. So anyway, quick update. Gonna get underneath the car, put the oxygen sensors into the manifold. A little pro tip: you're gonna want to put some copper paste on the oxygen sensors when you're putting them in. That way, if you ever have to remove the manifold, they come out easily. And just assembly as follows. Alright guys, so that was a bit of a challenge, I'm not gonna lie. What routinely is said to be about a 45-minute job, yeah, I don't know. My car is relatively new, and like there's no seized bolts, and it's never been winter driven, and I would say it's probably a little more than a 45-minute job. When you consider that you have to wrap the manifold and then of course put the manifold in, and with the equal length, the inside nuts on the head studs are not exactly the easiest to get to. So crack out your swivel sockets, get creative, because this is going to be a bit of a challenge. So lining up everything went in actually pretty smooth. Taking out the OverPipe was a lot easier than I thought. You just remove the heat shields from the OverPipe on the OEM or the factory OverPipe, and then it just kind of twists out of place. You don't need to jack up the engine, you don't need to loosen a motor mount, none of that stuff. So that actually came out surprisingly very easily. But getting the new OverPipe in wasn't an issue at all. It was just lining everything up. You know, everything is just, you have different manufacturers. If mixing and combining all of those, they don't always mesh. However, everything is done. It's all installed. I'm just gonna see if I can bring you underneath the car so you can have a look. Ooh. So it's all in place. And now we are going to get to the sound clip. No leaks, so that's always a plus. Alright guys, so that pretty much wraps the install. Right now I'm just letting everything heat up. As you can see, it's a bit smoky in here. We have a peek underneath, you're going to see that kind of just burning off all of the moisture and all of the grease and everything around the pipe. So we'll let it just do its thing, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So all in all, it wasn't a terrible install. I'd give the install difficulty probably like an 8.5 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10. Not super tricky. It's just, you know, when you're doing it on the garage floor, it's not always so cool. So anyways, thanks for watching. As always, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.